Constellation
now
of
over to the
imagination,
next speaker.
imagination,
Constellations of Imagination, Professor Claudia Battaino
czyli strident.
of University of Trento.
Buongiorno, buongiorno a tutti. Thanks, it's a pleasure for me to be here. Thank you for the invitation. History and the process of memory, by shaping and transforming the past, play a fundamental role in architectural design. As Ernesto Nanta Rogers argued, they are inseparable for imagination and invention, from the necessary construction of an imaginary intending to generate new form and meanings. Every culture has developed ways to engage with nature, turning necessity into architecture and technique into language. As some of these, due to their fundamental power, endure through the age as a key figure of the collective imagination. Terra's form belongs to such a constellation. They have generated a configuration that exceeded mere agronomic functionality, inscribing into a matter a sense of order, of equilibrium with the environment, and of shared symbolism. It is within this tension between technique and imagination that terraced forms can be understood as a type. Following the definition of Kattermerde-Kinsey, the type is a generative principle, an archetype that returns across place and times, capable of adapting and renewing itself. From this perspective, the terrace form can be read as a ground choreography, plane, level, and path, acting as a compositional device that sediments memory and use within urban space. And in my presentation, focuses on the construction of imaginary that terracing has represented. Adopting this perspective means reading in the materiality of terraces ground the long cultural process that have made them bears of values and visions. They offers themselves a lens through which to observe the relationship between landscapes and civilization, highlighting continuities and discontinuities, permanence and reinventions. At the architectural scale, this passage translates into invention of the horizontal plane and the ability to regulate level difference. At the urban scale, into the organization of walkable tiers and network of movement. With this passage, the perception of landscape changes, no longer a mere natural backdrop, but a practicable field articulated into planes and gradients to be traversed. Terraces appear as a plinth that establish the ground, as a step that measure ascent, as a ramp that attars rising into narrative. The same elements are amplified into esplanade, civic terraces, streets, and so on. The terraces type is born from the primordial contact between body and ground, but it reaches its completeness where the elementary grammar, that is, step, platform, and ramps, becomes an ordering principle of architecture and of a portion of the city. And in this passage, individual experience transfigures into a collective palimpsest, transforming an elementary gesture into a shared structure of memory and design. The act to establish a plane is a symbolic gesture, to separate while at the same time connecting earth and sky, and to generate a place that produces vision and return as image. Within the invention of the first terraces, the imaginary is translated into matter, and the idea takes shapes and embodies form. Architecture can be narrated as an adventure that begins with the ground, with the primordial gesture of raising the earth and arranging it into planes, a platform emerging from the plane, a step taming the slope, a ramp making ancient practicable. And within this elementary grammar lies the promise of the type, the code of platform, steps, ramps, records across in time and place, as if history had identified a mother form for the expression of worship, power, memory, and landscape. And different civilizations, distant in space and time, share this fundamental framework. In the Greek archaic and riverine civilization, terracing was the principal device of monumentality. In the Greek rock sanctuaries, the horizontal threshold in front of the cliff, the terrace, is not added volume, but a mediating platform separating river and mountain, instituted a ritual plane for worship. In the Great Bath of Mohenjo-Daro in Pakistan, the infrastructural system of masonry terraces, platform, and large foundation controls water and organizes community space. In the sequence platforms at Erebuni, the sequence platform at Erebuni is a proto-urban model in which the natural slope, rewritten into enclosed planes, becomes multi-level architecture. At Persepoli, the type becomes a city podium. In Jerusalem, the sacred platform of the Temple Mount is an artificial ground capable of connecting cult, city, and power, a collective plane structuring access, thresholds, and procession. The Acropolis in Athens, with this sequence of ramps, terraces, makes evident that ancient is not only the reach of the temple. The natural slope is transformed into a promenade architectural. Here, the terraces are no longer topographical necessities, but instruments of perspectival orchestration. And also Pergamon, with its porticos, it is a city that can be read as a sequence of constructed planes where walking becomes narrative and level is language. In the Imperial Forum platform, podia and stairways orchestrate procession, while retaining walls and terraces mediate between the hills and plains of Rome. The tabularium The tabularium of the Capitoline Hill is a monumental base regulating a changing level, transforming containment into architecture of representation. The Terra City is not only a ceremonial center, it is a technical infrastructure where aqueducts, cistern, and drainage system exploit level difference to regulate the flow of water. Latin vocabulary makes it clear. Area, the flat space, gradus, the step, the level, and the podium, the base terrace, are operative words of city making, because the horizontal plane is never neutral. The Italian landscape offers a true library of ground. Horizontal planes establish against gravity, govern gradients and paths, weaving together houses, fields, and city. It is a repertoire of forms that nourish birds, guests, and end. Over time, terraces, once agricultural or religious tools, have become sculptural landscapes, an archive of spatial device, and in 20th century, architects and artists encountered this archive as a compositional source, translating terraces into active memory. Alvaralto Terrace Houses is not a house on the ground, but a house that creates ground, repeating with local variation the same logic of rural terraces. Sainazzalo Town Hall, in the Sainazzalo Town Hall, a montage of levels institutes the city as a civic scale, as a succession of artificial horizons in which the community recognizes itself on a shaped ground. In the experimental house at Murazzalo, a miniature terrace countryside is composed of edge, threshold, plane, and line. In the cemetery of Lingbli, a city of dead is organized through planes and threshold, according to the same logic of Mediterranean landscape that architects observe and translate it into a civic rite. The lexicon Alto derived from his travel in Italy and can be summarized as follows. The terrace is an habitable threshold, the ramp is a promenade, walls are retaining structure that hold the plane, and light is treated as a horizontal surface. The city is a ground infrastructure. Courts are rise, podium square are step measure civil ritual. At the landscape scale, as in rural terraces, the project uses the same rule, module and variation to generate compositions. Making a plane is not a mere technical expedient, but a choice to construct artificial horizon, to govern difference in level, to choreograph movements. In Behrens, the practicable planes becomes the true projectum, an alphabet of ground. A clear example is the crematorium, where the platform, together with the ground, the grand stairways, is not neutral base, but the inaugural act of a ritual. The lap-to type becomes evident in the Terrassenhaus, where the volumes recede in stepped tiers, turning roof into practicable space. The practical plane here becomes a model, from episodic solution to a typological matrix of modern dwelling. This trajectory continues in the Villa Gans, set on a slope, whose volumetry decomposes across multiple levels of loggias, balconies, and terraces, constructing a chain of threshold open toward the landscape. With Plečnik, the theme of making the plain becomes city design. Rather than opposing the new form to topography in Ljubljana, it follows the slope and translates it into a sequence of public platforms. The river is not a margin, but a linear platform. Bridges are not only passage, but open-air rooms that make a plain. Embankments are not hydraulic works, but terraces from which the city gazes at the water. The result is a great inhabitable section. This orchestration of plains is the way Plečnik Mediterraneized Ljubljana. Plečnik systematically works with the triad, plane, level, and path, and the tile is the tool to make the plan practicable. Retaining walls are not technical backdrops, but figure the tall and display the level. And the urban scale, the project of Plečnik focuses on continuous planes of embankments, bridge, markets, and squares that transform natural gradients into infrastructure of the city. In conclusion, terracing is not a mere technique, but a transhistorical composition device that translates functional and symbolic necessities into practicable planes. The ground choreography, the triad plane level path, is the minimal lexicon thrown with architecture and city institute collective space. The cycle worship city cultivation in which the type is born in the sacred, urbanized in Greece and Rome, ruralized in agricultural landscape, and re-emerge as a compositional repertoire in 20th century shows the strength of this type, its transferability across scales, context, and function, provides the operative imaginary with an archive of forms that can still nourish contemporary design practices. Thank you very much for your attention.